الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. سنشرف فسمر فلقية الهموية في ابن تيمية فتح رب البرية بتلخيص الهموية للشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية شراه إمام محمد بن صالح العثيمين يستند إمام محمد بن صالح العثيمين. Part 1 Chapter 10 Part 1 The Rising of Allah Istiwā over his throne Arsh. The word Istiwā linguistically is used to express different meanings, all of them having to do with the sense of completion or conclusion. It's used in the Quran in three different ways. The word used alone, as in the ayah وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ شُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى, and when he attained his full strength and istawa, Surah Al-Qasas 28:14, meaning to become complete, matured. 2. The word used with the ila too, as in the last statement, ثم استوى إلى السماء, then he istawa ila, to the heaven, Surah Al-Baqarah 2:29, meaning to give full attention to. 3. The word used with Allah open upon over is a statement, ليستووا على ظهوره, that you may istawa ala upon their riding animals' backs, meaning then the meaning is to rise over, to rise upon, or over, to settle. So the meaning of the istawa of Allah upon his throne is rising over it and settling upon it in a way that befits his greatness and majesty is one of the his attributes of action that is proven by the Quran, the Sunnah, and the consensus of the scholars. From the proofs of the Quran is Allah's statement, Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, the most merciful istawa rose over the throne, Surah Taha, verse 5. From the proofs of the Sunnah is what has been reported by Al-Halal in his book As-Sunnah. In his book As-Sunnah, with an authentic chain of narration, according to Al-Bukhari, that Qatada ibn Nu'man said, I heard Allah's Messenger say, لما فرغ الله من خلقه استوى على عرشه. When Allah finished with his creation, he istawa, rose over his throne. Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jailani said, it is mentioned in every book that Allah ever revealed upon a prophet. Al-Sunnah have all unanimously agreed upon the belief that Allah is over his throne, and not one of them ever said otherwise. It is impossible for anyone to report that from them, neither in wording nor in apparent meaning. A man once said to Imam Malik, O Abu Abdullah, Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, the most merciful istawa rose over the throne. So how did he istawa rise over? So Imam Malik bowed his head until he began to sweat. Then he said, the istiwa is not unknown. The how of it is not comprehensible. Believing it is required, and asking about it is innovation. The istiwa is not unknown. The how of it is not comprehensible. Believing in it is required, and asking about its innovation, and I see you only as an innovator. He then ordered that the questioner be kicked out. Similar to this was reported from Rabi ibn Abi Abdurrahman, Malik's Sheikh. His statement, the istiwa is not unknown, means that the meaning is not unknown in the language. Its meaning is rising over, settling upon. This statement, the how of it is not comprehensible, means that we cannot perceive how Allah is over his throne is with our intellect. The only way is the revelation, and the revelation has not reported the how of it. So if the board, the intellect, and the revelation not indicated, then it is required to refrain from speaking about it. His statement, believing it is required, means that it's obligatory to have in mind that Allah rose over his throne in a befitting manner because Allah has informed this about himself. So believing it and having in mind it is required. His statement, and asking about its innovation, means that asking about how the istiwa is an innovation because it was not known even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions. This statement that Imam Malik mentioned regarding the istiwa is a conclusive measurement of all of the attributes that Allah affirms of himself in his book or upon the tongue of his Messenger ﷺ. Their meanings are known to us, although how they are is unknown, because Allah informed us about them, yet did not inform us about how they are. Additionally, Speaking about the attributes of Allah is form of speaking about Allah himself. So just as we affirm that Allah's self is without takif, asking how, we likewise affirm himself without takif, and asking how. Some of the people of knowledge have said that if a Jami asks you, Allah descends to the heaven of the dunya, so how does he descend? Then reply, Allah informed us that he descends, and did not inform us how he descends. Another said that if a Jami asks you about any one of Allah's attributes, how is it? Then reply, how is Allah himself? For it is not possible to seek to understand how Allah is. So tell him that if takif is not possible regarding himself, then likewise is not possible regarding his attribute, because attributes are part of the one described. If someone says, if the istiwa of Allah over his throne means to rise over it, then that means he is either bigger than the throne, similar or equal in size. This is therefore suggests that he must have a body. Yet this is impossible. The answer is that no doubt Allah is greater than the throne and greater than anything else is. However, this doesn't imply anything of the false implication of which Allah is far above. As for saying that it is impossible for Allah to have a body, then it must be known that speaking about a body and associating it with Allah, either by negating or affirming it, is an innovation that has not been reported in the Quran, the Sunnah, or from the statement of the Salaf. It is a broad statement which requires more details. If what is meant by body is something that is composed, each part needing and supporting the other, then it is rejected from Allah, the ever-living, the self-sustainer and sustainer of all that exists. If what is meant by body is that which he has to be self-sufficient and is described with what befits him, then this is not divided from Allah, for Allah is self-sufficient and is described with attribute of perfection which befit him. However, since the word body can include a true meaning as well as a false one, as it relates to Allah, associating to Allah, either absolutely negating or affirming it, it's not permissible. This one of the statement, if this is so, then that must mean this. Must mean this, that the people of innovation used to eventually come to the final conclusion of negating what Allah has affirmed for himself of the attribute of complete perfection. This type of reasoning is of two types. The correct reasoning is that which does not contradict the perfection which is necessary due to Allah. This is true, and it is requirement to clarify this and explain that it is the type of reasoning is rejected from Allah. 2. The corrupted reasoning is that which does not contradict the perfection that is due to Allah. This is a false, and it is required to reject it and clarify that it is not a suitable reasoning of the Quran and Sunnah, because the Quran and Sunnah are true and so are their meanings, and it is never possible for the truth to be reasoned out to mean something else. If it is said, if you explain Allah's tower over his throne as rising over it, then that gives the impression that he needs it to lift himself or support himself. The response is that anyone aware of the greatness of Allah, the perfection of his capability, his strength, and his lack of needing anything, then it will not occur to him that Allah needs the throne to support himself. How is this when the throne itself and every other created thing is in need of his support and associated to him? There is no support or sustenance except by him. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ تَقُومَ السَّمَاءَ وَالْأَرْضَ بِأَمْرِهِ. And of his signs that the heaven and the earth only exist by his command. It is asked, it is permissible to explain the istiwa of Allah over his throne to mean that he conquered it, as the Mu'tazila explained, as a result of trying to avoid a false type of reasoning? The answer is that it is not permissible, and that is due to the various reasons. Firstly, if these types of reasoning are true, then they do not prevent explaining the istiwa which is real, actual meaning which is resting over. If they are false, then it is not possible that they be suitable types of reasoning derived from the Quran and Sunnah. Whoever thinks they are necessary based upon something else in them, the Quran or Sunnah, then is astray. Secondly, interpreting it as a stealer, conquering, is based upon false reasoning. It's not possible because it contradicts the concepts of the Salaf, and it will then be permissible to say such things as Allah is tower on the earth, he conquered it, another statement of which Allah is far above. If he conquered the throne, it will also mean that he was before that, not in the position of it, when he created the heavens and the earth. Thirdly, the interpretation of his tower rising over as a stealer, conquering, is unknown linguistically. It is a lie against it, the Arabic language, and the Quran was revealed in the language of the Arabs. Therefore, it is not possible for us to interpret it with a meaning that the Arabs don't know in their own language. Fourthly, Those who interpreted it as a stila, conquering, held the belief that it was a metaphorical meaning, and a metaphorical meaning is not acceptable unless and until it meets the following conditions. 1. An authentic evidence that calls for judgment to be taken metaphorically, not upon its apparent actual meaning. 2. The possibility of metaphorical meaning based upon the language. 3. The possibility of metaphorical meaning as it may pertain to that specific context. A possibility of an overall metaphorical meaning does not mean that it is acceptable in every context. The context of different specific wordings and circumstances could prevent some meanings which the wordings may mean if taken generally. 4. The proof which indicates a metaphorical meaning must be given and explained. This is because it may also be that the meaning is actually not metaphorical, rather to be taken as the apparent, the apparent actual meaning. Therefore, it is incumbent to provide the proof that specifies one or the other, and Allah knows best.